Hello, and welcome to this edition of Better Life with Stella. For those of you who watch our videos regularly, you will have noticed that I was absent for a number of weeks. Over the last 7 weeks, I had the opportunity of participating with one of the most incredible experiences of my life. It was an internship that lasted for 7 weeks with XP Ministries. XP stands for Extreme Prophetic Ministries with Patricia King and Robert Hodgkins. It was absolutely fantastic. It changed the trajectory of my life. Now, I'll tell you more about XP internships because they will be doing several of them next year. And if you ever have the opportunity to do it, do the application because it is well worth the investment of your time, your energy, and your resources. Well, right before I left for my internship, I had just finished yet another book that I am probably more excited about than anything I've written in the last few years. It was a book entitled The Cail Woman. This is it. The Cail Woman. Now, I did a brief video segment that explained what cail was, but because there's so much insight and revelation that rises as you step into something, you get more wisdom, more insight, and you can begin to share at a greater and a deeper level. So I'm going to recap a little bit about the Cail Woman, what this means, what this passage of scripture is about from Proverbs, the 31st chapter, and how it is a complete game changer and how we can apply the information, the revelation, as well as the wisdom for using this new insight in your life to impact your results, to impact your family, your future, and to actually become what God predestined you to be. So let's recap. The Cail Woman, starting with the word cail. In Proverbs chapter 31, verse 10, it says, "Who can find a virtuous woman? For her wealth or her value is far above rubies." The word virtuous has always been or often been associated with the connotation of moral excellence. That means a woman of purity, a woman of virtue, a woman of morals, a woman who, has a concern about her character and her values in that regard. And yes, all of those things are still true. We're not changing any of that. But when we did a deeper study of the word virtuous, there was so much more to this woman. And truthfully, as a child, I struggled with the paradigm that was rooted in the old moral excellence concept. I struggled with it because as I read the Proverbs 31, there was so much more to this woman that my mind, even as a young teenager, I just couldn't wrap my head around. Well, we're going to talk about what some of those other elements were and why I had such difficulty, and probably some of you do too. The word cail, or the word virtuous, is a translation of the Hebrew word cail. Cail, or if I'm saying it correctly, I hope I am, it's chayil. There's that little kind of clearing your throat tone in the back of your voice when you're saying it, because it is a Hebrew word. But the word cail is a translation of the word virtuous. The word virtuous actually is a translation of cail. And virtuous in the Hebrew has a number of different meanings. Now, the one that we have been most associated with is the one of virtuous or virtue. But what many people don't realize is that the word cail is found in scriptures over 230 times in the King James Version. Of that 230 times, only 3 times is it translated as the word virtuous. Of the 3 times in that translation, 2 of them are found in the book of Proverbs, and 1 of them is found in the book of Ruth. So when you look at that word virtuous in our North American or in the traditional context as it relates to the King James translation, we have associated it with the understanding of moral excellence and purity. Now, that's okay. But again, let's shift. The word cail, even though it's in scriptures over 230 times, as I stated, is only translated 3 times as virtuous. So of the other 227 odd times that we find that word, what does it mean and how does it apply to the Proverbs 31 woman? Well, let's look at a couple of different meanings. First of all, the word cail is translated in that context. The virtuous woman is translated as Eschet Chayil. In the Hebrew, that means woman of virtue and valor and warfare. Let me say that again. Woman of virtue, valor, and warfare. This means that the woman, the cail woman, wasn't just about moral excellence. She was more about the acquisition of a mindset that allowed her to be first and foremost a warrior. Of the 230 times that you find cail translated, about 50% of those times it's translated with words that relate to warfare, armies, military, victory, valor, fight, moxie. So when you see Eschet Chayil, you are seeing a word that implies a woman with the capacity to fight. Now, the phrase woman of valor, the word valor, let's look at that word because it is also a powerhouse in translation. The word valor has a number of powerful meanings. First, it means moxie. This is a woman with determination and guts. Valor also means courage, a woman who is not afraid to step out, especially in the battle, stepping into a battle when you know you've got a fight coming on and you know you have to bow up and you've got to pull yourself together and step into that fight so you have the mental prowess to win. Yes, that's what cail means. Another one is the word guts. This is a word that implies tenacity. You're not afraid. She's going to step out. It's almost like I remember growing up when you would see some kids if they were getting ready to fight, and then you see someone who's not afraid to step up and say, you know what, you may beat me, but you won't beat me because I didn't try. I'm going to give it all I've got. I'm going to give it guts. Another word, so we've got moxie. We've got guts. Here's another one, grit. This is someone who bears down, who focuses on it, who locks in on their target, and they don't quit until they get it. So we've got courage, moxie, guts, grit. How about this one? Tenacity. This is a woman who goes after it, who stays focused, who locks in until she wins. Guts, tenacity, valor. Here are a couple more. How about stout-hearted? That word is an old word that I used to hear a lot growing up, but you don't hear it a lot today. But stout-hearted means that even in the face of opposition, you stand your ground. You may stand your ground with tears in your eyes. You may stand your ground with your teeth locked and clenched, but you stand your ground because in your heart, you know you should win, you should have the victory, and you're not going to give up even if it costs you tears. You will fight. So when we look at the word valor, these are some of the meanings. So let's look at them again. I'll recap some of them. I've got them actually listed on the back of the Cail Woman book, so you can order this online on my website. But let's look at a couple of them again. When you look at the word cail, you're looking at a word that means courage in the face of death. You're looking at a word that means bravery. You're looking at a word that means a fighter, a woman of moxie, stout-hearted, tenacity, audacity, bravery, courage. All of these words are hidden and locked into the meaning of Eschet Chayil. So the underlying meaning of the word cail is one that relates to warfare. This is a woman who was not afraid to fight. So when we look at the context of the cail woman from the book of Proverbs, we see a particular realm that she exercised a great deal of authority in. Now, in our next segment, we're going to talk about the second connotation of the word cail. This is Stella from Better Life, and today we've been talking about my new book, The Cail Woman. We've noted that the cail woman actually has far more meaning than the concept of moral excellence. We've talked about one of those today, and that is the context of a woman of warfare and valor who is destined to win. More about the cail woman in our next segment.